the people. I'm very distrustful of people like Tim Pool, just because like the way that he comes off, it just sounds like a raging lunatic who has no like in the game of trying to change the world. So that's generally my view of.
And I mean, putting Tim and Rachel in the same basket is something we can put to the side for later.
The difference is funding. One has more funding.
All right, welcome back, everyone. This is I Didn't Read Your Book. I am your host, Lutch, and today we are not doing a podcast, but in fact, we are doing another edition of IDRYB Live. You bring up a good point talking about pundits and where you get information. In terms of us all having liberty as one of our top values, either of you, how do you think the sources that you trust allow you to embody that value and keep that going, or you know, if you're in a conversation, how do you think that helps you?
A lot of the people that I listen to would generally have not necessarily the same biases and way of viewing the world, because I do listen to people who have a lot of disagreements with. I look at people with similar goals and intents. So someone like Destiny, he's worked a lot in local politics and trying to move political parties in a certain direction, pushing for ameliorations, whether that be in housing or public health care. I do the same thing. I've been volunteering politically ever since I was 16. First on Lori Birch when she was running in my local district. Then afterwards for Beto O'Rourke's campaign. I volunteered for Senator Sanders' 2020 campaign, and now I'm volunteering for Sandeep Srivastava's campaign here in my home area. He's running for Congress. Generally speaking, I've also voted in every local election I could. Because unfortunately, young people don't vote, and I'll take that as an L for my generation. We're kind of lazy. So I try to get my friends to vote. I do local volunteering and trying to move things forward. And I've worked with a charity here in Dallas where we try to help homeless veterans. We do like a kickboxing promotion, try to help homeless veterans.
Cool.
My entire goal is I want to improve the material condition for people around me. And there are some people who are on the left who have that same goal, people like Destiny. There's some people on the left who don't have that, and they're grifters. One Hassan Piker comes to mind.
Yep.
So generally speaking, my goal is there. I would say that's the people. I'm very distrustful of people like Tim Pool, just because the way that he comes off, it just sounds like a raging lunatic who has no like any political gain or any type of skin in the game of trying to change the world. So that's generally my view of pundits like him and Rachel Maddow as well.
And I mean, putting Tim and Rachel in the same basket is something we can put to the side for later.
The difference is funding. One has more funding than the other.
But again, we could we'll put that to the side for later. But you know, given that you both are, you know, not that I'm any more trusting, but given that you're both very distrustful of getting information from people speaking to you, how do you feel that reading it from a source is any different than somebody who, let's, you know, regardless of who it is, let's say there is this hypothetical pundit that you would trust, and they're spending all day reading all of these different things and then disseminating information to you. Aside from the obvious fact that their bias is going to be a buffer, if you can understand that bias and see through it, particularly if the person is upfront about it, then why is there a difference? How is that?
Yeah, there's actually a huge difference. This is one of the reasons why, like, watching Fox News is a pointless effort. But I would regularly read the Fox News articles, their online articles, because this is actually came out in court cases too. Like, I'm pretty sure you remember this. CNN had the same issue where in court they registered that we are an entertainment company, not a news company. Punditry, unfortunately, has blurred the lines of being between entertainment and information. So when you have shows like with Tucker Carlson, Rachel Maddow, all those clowns, they focus on being sensational. They're not as beholden to the facts. Whereas if something is written journalism, it's held to a higher standard, even in court. So it's harder to be sued for libel if you, or I guess even slap, if it's a pundit speaking on air versus a person who has something written down and has documentation there. So there's a liability.
I've seen something very similar because they're public figures. So they're they're considered entertainment figures, so they can say what they feel and believe, and it's considered them voicing their opinion, and it's considered okay. Uh, and it's interesting too because there's a lot that we have to wade through to get to the truth. Journalism's kind of dead. If you really want an eye-opening experience, pop in a copy on DVD or Blu-ray of All the President's Men. You know, when they went through, and I watch it every so often because it's a great movie, and they talk about we got to have three verified sources in order to run
Mm.
the story. And at one point, they ran the story, but their sources weren't verified, and they were like, "Look, you guys do this again, you're fired." Like the integrity of the paper's at stake, things along those lines. And when I went to school, I wrote for the school paper, and yeah, I spent a lot of time with my journalist colleagues, and it was one of those things that I understood what the principles of journalism were, but the pundits do not operate under that umbrella, and they are not journalists. But they like to cloak themselves as such so that they sound authoritative. I don't watch, especially at night. I agree. I'm going to agree with you. I can't watch like Tucker Carlson and stuff for more than 2 or 3 minutes. And even in the morning when I watch Fox News, I'm like, look, all I want are tell me what your top three stories are, and then I'm done. I don't want the detail. I'll go find the detail if I think it's pertinent to my life or pertinent to society as a whole, that I understand this. Um, yeah, it's really hard. And we're a society too where we've elevated talking heads and comedians who are seen as sources of valid information. John Oliver and the hosts of The View and things along those lines, that people turn to them as potential sources. And it's like, if you're getting your news from there, that's not news. That's
So real quick,
something else.
there's something that a through line with what precisely what both of you just said. So between, I think I don't disagree with what you're saying. Again, because I don't, with the branding, I don't read that much. And I do get most of my information, secondhand, third hand, whatever, from somebody. And so if I am talking, or if I am listening to somebody who is a Tucker Carlson or a Rachel Maddow or one of these people, then yes, I think what you're saying applies. However, when Anna, you're saying you trust Destiny, and I've ever since I asked you about him, I've been aware of him for a while, but he was on Tim Pool. I don't know if you saw that episode, Anna,
I
but
did.
definitely wasn't a raging lunatic in that episode. But the question is it punditry itself, or is it the pundits themselves? Because I mean, I
It's
guess
inherently punditry. It's
I
inherently punditry.
and but then why even bother with Destiny at all then?
Oh,
And Blaine, why even bother with Tucker at all?
Blaine, would you like to go first, or
Well, yeah, I can tell you that in the last month I have watched no more than 3 minutes of Tucker Carlson. So, and I consider myself conservative, and I'm not abashed about that. It's fine. I just, it's not where I normally play in terms of how I feel and things along those lines. And, you know, I think sometimes it's such a barrage of snippets and one-liners and things that are designed almost as online clickbait type things that it just makes it very difficult. Um, I watched Rachel Maddow during election night because it's always entertaining, you know, just to see how the other side reacts, you know, during things, because I'm like, I want to see that and experience it. So, yeah, is it punditry or the pundits themselves? I'm going to side with our co-host here and kind of go. I think it's the punditry. I think it's the air of this is acceptable behavior, and it's being presented as facts when in many cases it's opinion, or it's not even remotely fact. It is stuff that's completely made up in some cases.
Andrew?
yeah? So the reason why I like Destiny is For the most part, because he's very analytical and data driven. If he's making a claim, he's going to give you a list of all the sources that he's researched through. I will go through those same sources. I will come to some disagreements. I don't agree with him 100%. There are many things I would disagree with him, but his methodology for coming to a place is not only intellectually sound, which I would appreciate on a lot of issues that even I myself am very confused on. It also focuses a lot on being analytical and making some ideas accessible. There are a lot of complicated policy ideas that I'm not too sure about myself. So having a perspective, even if it's his, will at least give me something to work with and research deeper.
And
I
so,
see that's the value that it provides me.
and so,
I tend to agree with you on that. Honestly, I very much feel that you have to go through that experience of doing that, digging into the sources. And as you said, even though you're looking at someone that you do place some value in their opinion because they do the research, there are times you go, okay, I can't back you on this. You know, this
right.
I'm looking at the same data you are, but my conclusions are different. I always kind of phrase it this way. When I was in the 1980s, okay, I'm dating myself here. Okay,
I was born in the 80s.
1970s actually.
Okay, I wasn't born in the
One
70s.
of the debate topics, I took debate, which was great, smartest move. By the way, I totally support you in that. Debate was a wonderful thing because it teaches you logic and it teaches.
So sorry to interrupt your podcast experience. I just want to remind you, if you're enjoying what you're watching, please hit the like button and subscribe for more content. And if you really love it, there's some support links in the description. I would love if you could help out the channel. And back to the show.
You thinking on your feet, and it teaches you to pick apart evidence and compare it with counter evidence. The debate subject that year was America should have energy independence because America and the world was going to run out of fossil fuels by the year 1990. There were tons of scientific reports out that supported it. And you can look it up. It was a national debate topic of we have to have energy independence, which meant shifting to nuclear, shifting to solar, looking at alternative fuels, hydrogen fuel cells, all that stuff. All of it was required because science had told us that we were going to be out of fossil fuels. And what I like about what I heard you say is look, we have to pick apart everything, and we have to be willing to question even things that are quote science and go, okay, but is there contradictory data out there, and how much weight do you place on it versus other weight? And I never look at it as a numbers game. Somebody's always like, oh, there's 100 people that believe this versus 3 people that believe that, and it's like it's not a numbers game. It's not how many people or who's the loudest voice in the room. It's what's the actual facts. And that's a real challenge.
And what I find interesting is, Anirudh, as you were talking about what you like about Destiny, are there any of those things that you can say that are not true of Steven Crowder?
I mean, I have not watched a lot of Steven Crowder. I'm generally unfamiliar with him.
And so my point in asking is that if you find somebody, if you take the time to find somebody whom you can trust and you are okay with taking in their opinion and analyzing it individually as not seeing them necessarily as a direct authority, but rather somebody who has just spent more time reading about something. And they have this analytical mindset. They can provide you the sources, all of this stuff. Then I'm still not understanding how that is a disadvantage or even any different from the quote unquote the hard source. At the end of the day, it's whether it's on paper or it's coming out of somebody's mouth, it's still somebody speaking.
So I guess simple example is you played the game Telephone before, right? The more places something goes through, the more likely it's to be distorted. Likewise with punditry, especially the ones who do a lot of reaction segments, they take like a like really flashy news story. They say, "Oh my God," they make like broad conclusions. "Oh my God, society's falling apart because."
But I don't follow those people. I don't think any of us would, and I think I don't think that really needs. I don't think that's really relevant here, because I think we all are at the place where I mean, unless you are saying that somebody who follows a lot of different voices, that I am following these voices. Then
I mean, like, if you gave the example of Tim Pool. Tim Pool is definitely one of those people.
okay, how so?
I actually just watched a clip earlier today. I think it was one that came out. He was talking about. He made some ludicrous statements about birth rates, about how our economy is going to collapse because birth rates are leveling off in the developed world. Which the
That's
statement
not
that
what he said.
are we referring to? Are we referring to the same segment?
I
He
believe
made his
so. I can pull it up, and if I
sure, it was
because
in
I
the first
watched.
2 minutes. I forgot it was he had like the headline story about like men
Well,
getting
here's
vasectomies.
another question. Did you watch the end of the video? Because ironically, I was like, this. Oh, actually, it should be on
I got through
my.
like minute 20 of 26. That's the
Okay,
farthest I could
and
get before I
so
wanted to shut my brain off.
originally, leftist men get vasectomies to support women amid fear Roe v. Wade will get overturned. That was the long and short of it. That was the title of it. But the long and short of it was that similar to, and I tweeted about this earlier. I don't know if you saw it. That a lot of people might think that as you're saying, that he's saying some wild thing, when really what it comes down to, what he's actually saying is that, look, if this is what you want, and it was about these leftist guys getting vasectomies to support to support women who are against the overturning of Roe v. Wade. And I don't even understand how how you don't see a connection between a rise in vasectomies across the board and lower birth rates.
Well, because generally vasectomies are not responsible for lower birth rates. I've studied developmental economics. Like the biggest determining factor of lowering birth rates is like the reduced infant mortality. One of the reasons why a lot of people have children is because many children don't survive. General female participation in the labor force, the more women that participate in the labor force, the later they get married, the fewer children that they have. Education, more educated women have less children. And the concentration of fewer children allows you to put more resources into children. He erroneously made the claim that lowering birth rates will harm future economic growth, which has been disproven by developmental economists all the way from William Easterly to, I guess, even like Steven Pinker. So he erroneously, like from common sense, I guess this is my big issue with pundits, is a lot of them argue from common sense or intuition, made an erroneous statement about the decline of birth rates. And he pulled up like some hilarious story about vasectomies and like attributed like some sort of mass movement as though this is the reason why our economy is going to fall apart, which is unfortunately like the level of stupidity there is I can't even draw a graph to quantify that.
So I mean, I have the video pulled up. Do we want to take a look at it?
I mean, in the first 3 minutes, he ends up digging himself into a hole. But
well,
yeah,
it's
go ahead.
I mean, usually it's the rest of a 25-minute video that would have things to go. So since you came in at the 3-minute mark, let's go to the 3-minute mark. And
I said within the first 3 minutes. I don't know if it's actually at the 3-minute mark. I'm bad at timestamps.
All right. Well, then let's just share here.
And you can get a toaster, basically. After taxes, maybe an hour and a half, right? Well, when trying to make a toaster from scratch,
Oh yeah, I remember this.
getting your own wiring, getting your own rubber for coating the wiring, all of that stuff couldn't be done. Notably, getting the plastics couldn't be done. So what did the guy do? He mined plastic. He went to a dump and he scooped it up. I'm sorry, that doesn't count. I suppose you could just make a metal duct tees that allow for this to happen. And I'm just like, building a house used to be like to the main line. You need a home contractor plumbers who can go in and do basic stuff to wire masculinity. If we don't have more children, not or something like that. It's going to require a lot of people. So stories like this aren't just about masculinity. They're not just about men not being able to have families or being unwilling to have families. It's about the future of civilization and what it means if we don't have more children. And obviously, comment below.
Right here.
Go ahead.
So the statement that civilization is going to collapse, or that if we do not have children, we are going to face these issues. Honestly, it has the same parallels to the story that Blaine mentioned about the world running out of fossil fuels by 1990. We made those with models with certain expectations. We didn't expect that we'd be able to mine through fracking. We didn't understand like the use of shale oil and gas. We didn't expect massive innovations in our ability to capture energy. So when we made those projections and models, we did so with incomplete information. The statement that he made that if we don't have enough kids, that's a Malthusian principle that's been debunked like decades ago. Ultimately, what increases like having fewer children is actually a benchmark for increasing economic prosperity. Him erroneously claiming that because we're going to have not as much children, our civilization is going to collapse or we're going to be less economic productive is like, you would have to be almost criminally stupid in economics to make that type of claim.
Okay. So why don't we get to the point of the video before we go any further? Because I mean, I hear what you're saying, but that's, again, not really relevant because you didn't really watch the video. So
I've watched the video. He then goes on to explain about.
I was certainly not getting my balls chopped off. Well, I'm kidding, not getting their balls chopped off, just getting their vasectomies. But let's read the story from Yahoo News. They say, after Andy and Aaron Dress had their 4th child, Andy decided it was time for him to step up and help with the family planning. So he did something the mere thought of makes some men cringe. He got a vasectomy. It was early one morning last winter, a brief moment of peace before juggling getting the kids and ready for online.
I'm looking for the second article. Because usually, again,
as someone who's had a vasectomy, it's a decision that every family at one point or another goes through, which is, do we wish to continue with the current form of birth control that we're using, or do we switch and do that? I did it, and I didn't think about the fate of civilization as the as a driving factor. Not that I want to go into details about my vasectomy.
I think I would also like to be spared those details.
So, I mean, again, the point of if that was the whole video, then I would be agreeing with you and saying, oh, because a small group of men are virtue signaling that they're going to get vasectomies when, like that doesn't really do anything, that's going to cause the end of the world. That's kind of alarmist, right? But again, that was 4 minutes into a 25-minute video. So going back to
so my issue is not like him saying something stupid about the world ending because of vasectomies. My statement is him like misunderstanding economics by claiming that our economy is going to collapse if populations shrink, not that vasectomies are causing the end of civilization. That's not the claim. I mean, that's also a stupid claim, but the most important claim is like the stupid economic statement. It's like, I guess it's like the equivalent of someone saying like, oh my God, like government control of industries almost always works. We should do central planning, 5-year plans. It's as stupid as someone saying that.
Okay. I'll disagree. I don't, again, think that well, not disagree, but I think that in the context of the rest of the video, that it makes a lot more sense, and that's not what he was saying.
I don't know what in the video ends up repudiating what he said. His statement alone.
Let's find out. Why not?
Millennial women problem. Nearly 70% of young women are leaning toward Democratic candidates in the midterms. And it's true. Let me show you this. Do you have a favorable or unfavorable opinion of the Democratic Party? And we can see that it's basically 50-50. Ever since, this is really amazing, since the fall of Kabul. I don't get this one, but sure. Hey, Cincinnati, like my favorite 30.
Where is it? It's in that other article. He just had it up.
And eventually, you're a family.
God damn it.
U.S. burning.
The point was.
So it's not.
Whatever. The point was that the other article, the main article he brought up was an article that was talking about the cultural side of it and the fact that it's not men who are fighting for whatever, I can't find. It's not men who are fighting the pro-life fight. It's other women, and so framing the point of using the article, that article, as a little bit of clickbait and you know what I'm trying to say, sensationalization. That is a part of the YouTube punditry game. I don't deny that. However, again, the question is, do you think that I am aware enough when watching, Tim and then Destiny and then Abin Preach and then Kyle Klinsky and all these people that I can't take the perspective that Tim is putting out there and internalizing the message across all of these different perspectives? That's my question. Why is that so much different than reading articles from different people?
All right, because at least 80% of the people you listed are morons. I mean, not in terms of like as people, but as in they don't really understand the depth of which they're talking about things. Like Kyle Kalinske, I mean, I grew up watching him. He was like I probably like 2014. He was like the big one back when I was in like atheist era. Blah blah blah. I read him a lot, but when it comes to a lot of issues on economics, he's just completely illiterate. It's absolutely wild. He made statements that uh, immigration harms economic growth, or like mass immigration or like illegal immigration harms economic growth, something that's been disproven through countless economic studies. They're like crazy things that people will say. Hey, he's anti-free trade, even though free trade has been proven empirically to improve incomes for individuals. It's oftentimes when people have these types of, especially if they're pundits, a lot of them come from emotional understandings of the world, and adding more emotional understandings of the world from different people doesn't necessarily yield clarity, because unfortunately the truth is very boring and it's not very sexy, and unfortunately that's just something you have to deal with if you care about being right. If you don't, if you just care about being entertained, then I see no issue with just like listening to anyone you find entertaining. But if the goal is to like have some sort of semblance of the world that you can operate off of and try to do good, then it's a very poor model. Not when your time is better spent understanding on a deeper level the more intricate aspects of these issues.
I would say that going to a variety of sources and forming an opinion is still, while it's not as perfect as where you're wanting to go, Anruth, I think it's better than what most people do, which is they go to one source and that's their view of the world. And that, I think, is the challenge that the country has, is you have to be willing to accept other perspectives and other views of things. And
Absolutely.
I don't think most Americans are there. I think they're like, look, it's like my dad when he would come home. I'm going to put it on Walter Cronkite on CBS and watch the news every night. And that's where my dad got his complete view of the entire universe, was that in the local paper. And we've got generations of people that's what they do. They go to one or two sources and that's it. That's their whole world. And anybody that challenges that is a heretic or a madman or ignorant
Or
or
a white
whatever.
supremacist.
Yeah, well, all that stuff. It doesn't matter.
And to that point, again, especially if you are you're working, you've got a family. I happen not to, so I have more time to go through different sources, whether they are pundits or they are articles. I do have more time to go through stuff, but regardless, you can only take in a certain number of facts and opinions when you're reading versus when you're listening, especially if you crank it up to 2 times speed. So again, I'm looking for something that personally for me, that I'm thinking, maybe should I not be spending so much time listening to people who I've vetted and have they've predicted things and those things have come true, and they've shown times when they are willing to humble themselves and correct all the things that you would expect a bad pundit to do. They haven't done it. All the things you expect they wouldn't do, these guys have done it, in my opinion. And it's just a matter of timing. If you don't have the time to read to figure out these different, or rather the legitimacy of these different sources, then again, I kind of feel like you're at just at a standstill. How does one find if you want to go through this quote unquote boring information, and there is entertaining ways to consume it that are accurate to what the articles you're reading are saying, then again, where's the issue? The issue, what you're talking about, seems to be is if the information does not match, in which case I am not looking to follow that person. I'm not looking to listen to that person. And again, it's even the Kyle Kalinskis and Destinys of the world. I don't agree with a lot of their views, but by talking to them, people who are smart, analytical, in the weeds, all this stuff, they have an understanding of whatever the thing is better than I could get with the time and, frankly, willingness of time that I have to dedicate to learn about any one individual issue.
Well, one of the challenges I think that's out there is what is reality and what is a fact. Because right now, for every fact that's put out there, 3 counterfacts are immediately posted and voiced, etc. That will rely on different data, that will validate in a different way, and it gets very confusing because where do you go for an actual fact, a statement of fact that is irrefutable?
Right.
It's very difficult to go get that data at times. I saw a meme the other day somebody was circulating, and it was like, oh, it was all about the literacy rate in California versus West Virginia. And my first reaction was, I'm going to go to the Department of Labor and validate these numbers because it's in a meme that somebody's circulating, and I'm not even going to click that I like it or whatever until I know that it's actually real. And I don't think most people have the time to do that, nor do they have the willingness to do that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And again, that's where I think the role of pundits, good pundits, are really important. Because again, whether whether you have the time to you simply don't have the time to become aware enough about all of the things in the world. You can get great information on one topic, or you can be a jack of all trades, master of none. And that's the dichotomy I see if you are, not saying anybody has to do this, but if you're going strictly to, I'm only going to read papers and articles and stuff, or I'm only going to listen to other people talking to me.